This is Group 3's data meeting number 5, evaluating success and determining next steps. During week 10, our group determined that our SMART goal was not met. We identified 2 instructional tactics that failed to sufficiently support our students in meeting our goals. We collaborated via Google Docs to analyze the persisting learning goals and instructional gaps and decided that we would continue our data action cycle to readdress our exploratory question. From there, we incorporated the steps for data meeting 6 to reevaluate our instructional tactics with the data action plan protocol and determine new strategies. We determined that the 2 failed tactics were appropriate but not sufficient by themselves to make students masters of answering text-based questions. Each lesson was a good launching point to determine which students needed more intense writing practice. Over the course of the week, our group split into pairs and transformed the 2 lessons that we felt would better provide results to our SMART goal. Each pair broke down the lessons and determined the shortfalls, but also used new strategies to enhance these lessons. We determined that these strategies did not work by themselves and decided to continue with our data meeting action plan. The 2 strategies that did not work. Our failed instruction number 1, a Nearpod lesson. With regards to the Nearpod lesson focusing on text-based writing, the learning goals were not met. During the planning and process, Jill and Lisa looked closely at the lesson and examined how it could be improved to help meet the needs of all students. After analyzing the lesson, students continued to struggle with text-based writing and using evidence from text to support their writing. The Nearpod lesson details the steps for using evidence to support writing, but does not help students with grammar or mechanical errors. Nor does it provide tips for organization. On the FSA writing rubric, students are graded on their organization, evidence, and elaboration of details and conventions. The Nearpod lesson only addresses one of these 3 grading factors. In addition, the Nearpod lesson does not differentiate learning for students. If teachers use Nearpod in small group instruction, the teachers could tailor each Nearpod to the students' needs. In a diverse classroom, such as Lisa's, students need instruction that is tailored to their writing skills. For instance, an Edutopia article focuses on differentiation by making a personal connection to writing. The Edutopia article states, students then are given the opportunity to write a personal narrative based on a small moment, expanding the story by adding details regarding to what happened, dialogue, and an ending. By giving students the opportunity to write about their own life, the teacher is intrinsically motivating and encouraging students to write. It is important to note that the Nearpod lesson is a great starting point, as seen, for text-based writing. However, it needs to be supported by outside resources and additional Nearpod lessons to improve students' writing. To supplement this Nearpod lesson, the teacher could provide other resources such as sentence starters, daily language review warm-up activities, graphic organizers, and more opportunities to write across content areas. According to Venables, the teacher needs to step out of their comfort zone and try something new or different to help students learn, even if that means introducing an entirely new program such as Nearpod. One of the last aspects that can be enhanced is the aspect of blended learning. The Nearpod lesson is a great example of 21st century learning. According to Dela Cruz, students must encourage the use of capabilities technology affords them to develop rich, dynamic, forward-thinking presentations of their knowledge. This lesson encourages students to critically think about their writing. However, small group and individual work, the classroom can become blended with the use of online and in-person instruction. Nearpod should be a tool for teachers to use in the classroom to enhance instruction, but not replace it. Rachel and Karen reviewed the 6th grade STEM lesson on text-based writing through a study of cell phone triangulation. After close examination, they found a number of places where this lesson failed to support students in meeting our SPARK goal. They then collaborated both with Google Docs and FaceTime to transform the lesson to better meet the students' needs. The original lesson was planned for students to complete multiple readings and writing activities in only 80 minutes of science class. We concluded that this lesson could actually be made into an integrated science, mathematics, and language arts units. There were many great activities, but when we dove into what could be done to this lesson, we decided there were many things that could change. Starting with our introductory activity that was presented. The introductory activity originally had only lower order thinking questions, and we added an open-ended higher order thinking question to help students practice writing short answers with evidence from the video. The Explore activity contained a class discussion about how cell phones can be used in a crime scene. We wanted to integrate technology and have students post their initial ideas about how cell phones can be used to solve a crime scene on a Padlet to reference after watching the video on cell phone tracing. Having the Padlet activity also addresses multiple intelligences and learning styles. The Explain activity about cell phone triangulation requires students to read and summarize 2 different articles over the course of 20 minutes, which we found to be impossible. Because this activity contains very important tasks that support our SMART goal, we decided to expand this activity into a closed reading and writing activity in language arts and science for 2 days. There was no mention of differentiation for this portion of the lesson or any specific guidelines or modeling for the summaries, which would be necessary for ensuring every level of student to be successful. The Elaborate section incorporated a math activity that was completely unfeasible for students to complete successfully, according to the 6th grade standards. Students are asked to complete a crime scene investigation by identifying cell phone locations using trigonomic functions to triangulate cell phone positions. The idea of the activity is good, but the math standards would have to be adjusted to a middle school level as opposed to their current 11th grade level in geometry. The portion of this lesson would be taught during math class over the course of an entire week, as opposed to originally planned 30 minutes, and would involve Pythagorean theorem so that it was aligned with Common Core state standards and grade level objectives. The conclusion activity for evaluating students' understanding of this unit as written has students creating a crime scene with what they have learned, and then explaining how to solve that crime scene using cell phone triangulation. The students have not had enough exposure to writing crime scene descriptions, and there is not enough direction for this level of students to truly demonstrate what they have learned. We changed the activity so there would be more emphasis on the assignment and divided up the tasks between language arts and science. In language arts, students would read and analyze current crime scene stories from local news articles and then create their own crime scene incorporating evidence from what they have read, with rubrics for guidelines. In science, they would solve each other's crime scenes collaboratively using what they have learned about forensic and cell phone triangulation. This lesson had a number of great components in theory, but in practice did not meet the needs of the target audience of 6th grade students. We believe that the incorporation of a little more technology, a little more differentiation, and integration of this unit throughout subject areas to allow a more focused approach for each component will allow students to not only master the content of the lesson, but support them in reading and reaching their success in writing and SMART goals. Throughout the semester, our group found many strategies to help implement the data action plan. First, we should make sure that the process is thinking with the end in mind. What do we want our students to accomplish, and help that guide our process when selecting Common Core state standards and standards for the correct grade level. Every group member decided that the data action plan should be implemented quarterly and have every teacher in the grade level subject-alike team should be involved. Our team also felt that administration should be involved in the decision-making processes to help our students achieve success. Here's a collection of our resources we use to support our work for this data meeting. The resources include the Venables text along with a number of Edutopia articles and videos about differentiation, integrated studies, and project-based learning.